What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to be reacting to Jordan Peterson talking about the emptiness of the hookup culture. I'm going to be giving you my 2 cents on what he gets right and what I think he gets wrong. All right, so for context, Jordan Peterson, he is a professor. A lot of you guys know him. He's based out of Toronto. He's written books. He's very popular. Somehow he's also become part of the manosphere and the man's community. I sort of see why, but also he holds a lot of views, like he's very sexually conservative. He's been married for ages. He's not part of, hooking up or game or anything like that. So it's pretty interesting to see his perspective. He's being interviewed by Ben Shapiro, who is a guy who I find very interesting. Actually, I agree with some things he says, disagree with others, but I do think he's a very sharp, interesting guy. One important thing to know about them, they're both very sexually conservative. So it's going to be interesting to hear their take on this. I'm going to react to it and give you guys my 2 cents. So let's jump right into this.
So Jordan, one of the things that you talk about in the book, which is, I think, really wonderful, and I hadn't heard you talk about it a lot before, you've done it in some of your lectures, but it hasn't been the main theme, is sort of the relationship question. How do you maintain romance in your relationship? And as a dude who's been married for almost 13 years at this point, I can say that, it is very, very good advice. I mean, the amount of work that has to go into a relationship to keep a relationship functioning at a high level is tremendous. And that's not what you are sold in the media. What you're sold in the media is, number one, the happily ever after wedding ending. But even that is now hackneyed. Now
I agree with this so far with what Ben says. I think a relationship does require a lot of work. I don't think it's just like you find the right person and everything works out happily after. No, it's definitely work. I can tell you my own relationship, even though I'm not married or anything close to it, I'm not even in an exclusive relationship, but still requires work. There's a lot of work that's involved. So it's not just like you find a cool, cute girl and then bam, everything works out. No, it does require work. And if someone starts getting lazy, things are going to go downhill. So far, I agree.
The idea is that there is no happily ever after, that basically you're a fool if you get married, and that true happiness lies in changing partners on a fairly routine basis. But that's not the case that you make at all. You make the case that happiness is going to lie, and fulfillment, more importantly, is going to lie in the hard work of putting romance into your relationship. And people, I think, when they get into this thing, they don't know how much work.
There could also be, on the flip side, there could also be a lot of hard work involved in the fulfillment of hooking up with a lot of girls. It just depends on how you're wired. Some people, they don't really place a lot of value in having a lot of sexual partners. You can know with our good buddy, John Anthony, he gets a lot of fulfillment from, having a very high leg count, right? So it just, people are wired differently. For example, some people really get a lot of pleasure from doing charitable work. Some people don't get any pleasure from it. So I think it's important not to apply a one-size-fits-all solution. All right, let's keep going.
It is to even do the sort of thing where you have to plan romance into your life, particularly after you have kids. It's a reality.
I had a lot of clinical experience, and I had men in my practice who were very successful, serially sexually active. And it didn't work for them very well.
I find his wording pretty interesting. Like, you can tell he's a little bit of a nerd inside, like serially sexually active. He's not just like, just a lot of clients and they got laid a lot, they banged a lot of chicks. He's like, well, how can I word this in a scientific way? Serially sexually active.
Now, I would say very forthrightly, if I had 2 men and all other things being equal, one was capable of serial sexual relationships and was attractive enough to manage that, and the other wasn't, that the person who managed to do that is more successful. I believe that. So if you're abstinent because you're incapable, that is not a virtue.
All right, so this is very important what he said. I very much agree with this. So he's saying, look, if the reason you're not having sex is because you can't get laid, don't try to make that seem like that's an accomplishment. It's not. And this is basically he's just dismantling the black pill community right now. Like, well, we can't get laid because we're ugly and that's okay. He's like, no, it's not. And I very much agree with this. So I think this is very important what he said. He just basically dismantled the argument, not the whole argument, but part of the argument of the black pill community.
But you can't divorce something as miraculous as sexuality from your life. How are you going to do that? Well, you can trivialize it.
So also very much agree. I think sexuality is a need. in the same category that food and water is. Now, you're not going to die, after 40 days of not having sex, but so it's probably not that high as, like we got air, like if you will die within 3, 4 minutes without breathing. Water, you will last, 24 to 40 hours. Food is more like 20 to 30 days. Sex, you won't die, but it will kind of eat away at your soul. Like, I've never once met an incel who was happy and fulfilled. It just doesn't happen. So I do think that sexuality is very much a need, like human connection, like purpose, whatever. They're still up there on the need, hierarchy of needs. So I very much agree with this. He's like, how are you going to just take something as important as sexuality and just say it's not a big deal? It is a big deal. So far, I very much agree with him.
It's nothing. Well, okay. Well, then you have nothing. So good luck with that. You're going to take one of the deepest sources of meaning that's available to you and turn it into nothing. Well, that's its own punishment. Well, so then you integrate it into your life. Well, what do you want for your life? Do you want to be, what is it that you want from sex? Do you want intimacy? Do you want closeness? Do you even want the experience to be of high quality? Do you want the person to pay attention to you? Well, they're going to have to care for you. Lust will get you somewhere, and it's not nothing, but it's by no means everything. And everyone knows this. People are lonely. They need someone to communicate with, and they need someone to tie themselves together with, so their lives make a rope. They need someone to communicate with when times are good and to share their triumphs, and they need someone to share their catastrophes, and they need a framework.
So this I very much agree with. He's saying that human beings need connection. You need someone to communicate your wins, your loses, someone to support you when the times are tough, all that kind of stuff. And I very much agree with that. The one thing I might disagree with, he hasn't said this explicitly, but I think he's hinting at it, is that should be your partner. When I think it could be, your set of close friends, your community, your family, your tribe, whatever, right? So I don't think it necessarily has to be a partner. It usually works out best when it is your partner because, but if you have a good relationship with your family, for example, or, your really close set of friends, it could be that as well. So I do agree that you really want people in your life who are there for you. I just don't think it necessarily has to be a partner. It's good when it's your partner, but it doesn't have to be that.
Stable so that they can have children. And well, why would you have children? It's like, that's a stupid question. It's like, well, what else are you going to do? There aren't that many things that make up your life, and intimate relationships, that's 20%.
So he's talking about, the reason a lot of people want to have kids is because it gives them purpose, right? Your kids become your purpose. And yes, that is true for a lot of people, but you can also have purpose outside of having kids. Your purpose could be, whatever you're working on, your career, your mission, whatever the fuck you're doing, whatever you're passionate about. And yeah, I do think that for most people, their biggest purpose is going to be their kids, but it doesn't have to be that way for some people. So I disagree with what the fuck else are you going to do? There are other things you're going to do, but most people will probably get more purpose out of kids. So some would agree, some would disagree.
Your life, or 30% of your life. Children, that's 20% of your life. Now, you can get away with neither of those, but you better have a walloping career or a tremendous aptitude at something.
Okay, so then he kind of said what I said. So he said you can go without that if you have something else really going for you, like really a career or some kind of aptitude. So with that clarification, I'd say we're completely in agreement.
Creative and remarkable, and maybe you can do that. Maybe that'll be enough for you. But I've seen that unidimensionality work out well, and very, 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 very rarely. So, and you have children because you'll never have the opportunity in your life to have as high quality a relationship with anyone as you could potentially have with your child. So you're going to forego that? Well, you can't.
The one exception could be your family, your parents, right? So with that exception, he's probably correct.
But what's left for you then? All this cynicism. It's aimed against blind obedience. It's like, fair enough, okay? So I would take a cynic over someone who's blindly obedient any day, especially a cynic who was once blindly obedient, because at least then they had managed that. But if you're really cynical, you move past cynicism. You doubt your doubt, and you start to notice, and then you engage in your life. And so young people are being sold a shoddy bill of goods. Even if you're successful at what you pursue, say, serial sexual satisfaction. Tinder, you're a hot Tinder item. It's like, well, if you're a male and you're attractive and you have an endless array of willing females, it's a gateway to psychopathy as far as I'm concerned.
So that I disagree with. I very much disagree with that. He's saying that if you're getting laid a lot on Tinder, that could very well turn you into a psychopath, basically, or psychopathy. I do not agree with that at all. In theory, I suppose it could, but that person would become a psychopath anyway. Like, for example, I've gone through, hundreds of girls on Tinder. I'm not a psychopath by any stretch. I know a lot of other people who have a lot of sexual partners. Again, you don't have to like view each person that you sleep with as a pure object in order to have a lot of casual relations. No, like you can enjoy that person in the moment and see them as a human being, but then you just don't build that deeper connection with them and want to keep seeing them. Some people, when they have sex with someone, they pair bond very quickly, and they can't do that. Some people are very good at doing that, right? So I don't think that you need to become a psychopath to have a lot of casual sex, like not by any stretch at all.
Because you have to divorce your sexuality from the humanity of the people that you're.
See, that I disagree with. You do not have to divorce your sexuality from the humanity of the people that you sleep with, right? You just avoid building a very strong connection. I would argue that the first time you sleep with someone, you should not have a very strong connection. Like, I am pretty guarded about who I really become vulnerable to and let into my life. And just having sex with me doesn't give you access to my deepest and darkest, secrets and fears and emotions, right? Like, I really need to build a lot of trust with someone. So if it's a friend, I'm gonna want to get to know them for a while before I become really close with them. If it's a partner, I'm gonna have sex with them a lot of times. I'm gonna really hang out with them and get to know them before they're kind of led into that like inner circle of mine, right? So yeah, I disagree with this assessment. It's like, it just assumes that, the human nature is that once you fuck someone once, you just completely open up to them. But that's not really how a lot of people work. It's how some people work, but it's not how me and a lot of people I know work.
Engaged with sexually. Well, all that's going to do is make you hard and bitter. And I wouldn't recommend it. So, and it's not casual moralizing. I'm not suggesting that naive abstinence is the right solution. But we're not doing a good job, Ben, of communicating the fundamental values of life to our young people. I got a story to tell you, man.
And this kind of goes off on a side tangent here. I do agree with the last thing you said. We're not doing a good job of communicating the values of life. But I think it's important to notice that everyone has different values. Everyone has different triggers and things that make them happy. What makes one person happy might be completely different than what makes another person happy. For example, some people, they don't want to have a lot of casual sex. They don't get pleasure out of it. They tried it a few times. It doesn't satisfy them. And I know guys who are in this category as well, and they prefer having, girlfriends and relationships. I know other guys who very much enjoy having a lot of casual sex, right? It makes them happy, puts a smile on their face. Just like some people, they get a big kick out of earning a lot of money. They enjoy, becoming millionaires and billionaires. Some people, they don't get any satisfaction from it. They just want to, enjoy their hobbies, or they want to, focus on charitable work. So if we can recognize that there's different people when it comes to careers, we have to recognize there's different types of personalities when it comes to sexuality. One is not better than the other. Another important thing to keep in mind is there's different times in your life. So when you might be in your 20s, you might want to have a lot of casual sex. When you move on to your 30s, you might want to have a relationship and settle down, potentially have kids. So again, it's not a black and white thing. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on the whole argument about the emptiness of the hookup culture. All right, hopefully you guys found this video valuable. So again, much respect to Jordan Peterson. I'm generally a fan of his, but I do think there's some things here he gets wrong. And I think part of that is because just, if you look at Jordan Peterson's history, he's always been, he's been married for a very long time. He's never been the, the player guy, which is fine. But I think that maybe if he had been, it might give him a little bit of a different perspective. He had an early 20s where he hooked up with a lot of girls on Tinder and then he got married. Might give him a slightly different angle than the one he has now. But either way, I think it's important to recognize that different strokes for different folks. All right, hopefully you guys found this video valuable. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more reaction videos from me, and if so, on what topics. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.